And here's my thing about top 5, top 10, top 15, whatever. I feel like top 5 receivers, there are about 10 receivers who you can legitimately make an argument for being top 5. So I put top 5 just because it's a little catchier for the algorithm and all that BS or whatever. But essentially what I'm saying is he's a top 10 receiver and he's in an argument for top 5. But people don't view him that way because they don't think that he wins the way that they believe a top 5 receiver is supposed to win, which to me is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And it's annoying to me. But yeah, if you told me, hey, I don't know if he's top 5, but he's definitely top 10, I agree. And I'd say I could have him in my top 5. I could not have him in my top 5. There's going to be some people, I listed off some names. I just rattled off some names here. There are some where people are like 100% this guy is a top 5 receiver, right? Devontae Adams, I think that's universal. He's a top 5 receiver. And most people would say he's the best. Tyreek Hill, I'd say he's the top 5. After that, it starts to get a little weird. And I didn't really look at a list of receivers, so I could be leaving people off. But I'd say this. Most of these guys I'm about to name, they could be definitely considered top 10. Maybe top 5. All right, so you got Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs, Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Keenan Allen, A.J. Brown. You can make an argument for all those guys. Some of them top 5, DK Metcalf. You could throw in some guys, right? And there's more. I'm leaving guys off the list. My bad. Because I just kind of rattled them off. But you can make the argument for some of these guys to be top 5. And you could say, let's say 7. I feel like there's a legit 7 receivers that you can make a legit. They could be top 5 receivers. So that's just kind of how I view it. So it's after a couple guys, I think everything else after that is going to be subjective for the next 7 slots. Or I said top 5. After the top 2, 3 guys, right? Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, they're for sure. And I think I'm throwing Justin Jefferson in there. It's how do you not? We'll see if he does it another year. But after that, everything else is subjective. All right? You see Chris Godwin, another good receiver. And when I say top 5, top 10, I'm going off of last season. Some people, you do give them kind of lifetime achievement awards. But, yeah, I'm going off of last season. So last season, Deebo had top 5 year. No doubt about it, right? No doubt about it. 1,400-yard receiver, over 1,700 yards total, 14 touchdowns. It was top 5 receiver season. Oddly enough, Deebo is the Lamar of receivers, top 5 in the position, but doesn't look the way people expect it to. I think that's perfect. And again, I think it's ridiculous. At the end of the day, right? And maybe both of these guys give you more to worry about as a coordinator, but if you're sitting down in the room with a coordinator, they are worried about everywhere Deebo Samuel's lined up. Outside, slot. They got to be worried about him hitting them on deep overs. They got to be worried about him hitting them on slants. They got to be worried about him hitting them with the screens. They got to be worried about the little orbit motions and things like that. You got to be worried no matter where he's at. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. And here's the thing. And I try to get people to understand. Quarterbacks, it is the same thing. Everyone wants to fit their narrative on how someone is supposed to win. Do they win? That's all that matters. Lamar Jackson wins. Lamar Jackson wins. When coordinators are in there and they're watching the film, they go in there, how are we going to stop him? How? So he's putting up 4,500 yards this season, whether 1,000 of it is on the ground or whatever the case is, whatever. Had a season, he's an MVP. He played quarterback and won MVP of the league. He's a quarterback. He can just beat you in multiple ways. He plays quarterback, though. He's lined up. He's listed as a quarterback. He plays 100% of his snaps at quarterback. Sometimes he might just run. He might take off. But he also throws the ball. And he actually completes a high percentage of passes. He's thrown a bunch of touchdowns. I'm so confused with people picking and choosing what they feel someone's supposed to be like. Listen, if I had it my way, if you're all right, Croc, what's the quarterback look like for you? I'd be like, man, kind of like what Kyle Shanahan said. Matter of fact, Kyle Shanahan throws like Drew Brees, runs like Lamar Jackson. Right? Like that is a dual threat quarterback. He does it all. Lamar Jackson does it all. Maybe he doesn't quite throw like Drew Brees, but he can throw that whole around. Right? Maybe Deebo Samuel doesn't run routes like Stephon Diggs. Doesn't matter. 1,400 yards, 1,000 yards through 8 games or whatever it was. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Anyways, enough of that. Deebo Samuel, even if you don't have him in your top 5, he's a top 10 receiver. Terrific receiver. He might win in different ways. You might think he's supposed to win this way and he wins another way, whatever the case is. But I tell you what, Deebo Samuel wins. You throw the ball to him, you hand the ball out to him, whatever, he's a star. Kick it to him, he's returning kicks, have him throw a touchdown. Great football player, great receiver. That's great. Well, Deebo is a great football player, but he's not a great receiver. What the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about? He is a receiver. He doesn't run routes like Stephon Diggs. Shut up. He catches slants and takes it to the crib. Catches Diggs and takes it to the crib. Over routes, take it to the crib. What are you talking about? What are we talking about? But enough about Deebo Samuel. Hopefully he signs. Saw my guy John Middlecoff talk about, he tweeted it out. He's like, man, I pay a premium for players that play big in big moments. Deebo plays big in big moments. Pay him.